Hello, once again, welcome to the South Side Kōrero. I know it's weird. I'm not saying we are Tara. Anyway, with an amazing guest from Sunpix Pictures, is that right?
Sunpix Post.
Right.
Yes.
His name is Daniel. We had a beautiful conversation about your beautiful career out in editing and color correcting, and then we went into how we got into your profession, and then straight into beautiful talk.
Yeah, we got a bit deep there, so we apologise in advance. It'll take you on a trip.
Oh, absolutely. And then with that said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm not going to spoil too much. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, wow. All right, cool. Sorry, I've been out of practice. It's been like a couple of months. So with that said, you're just coming back from your holidays, right?
Yes, I've had a month or so off, which is great, but now getting back into the swing of things.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Speaking of getting back into the swing of things, to our beautiful viewers out there, would you give us a little insight into your work that you just had a brief break from?
Cool. Well, my name is Daniel Habedank, and Vincent has kindly invited me to his show. Yeah, to talk about, life, love and death, I guess, all those things in between. I met Vincent at Accelerating Aotearoa here in Auckland. We did Geek Camp together. We made a #1 single, which I think is still top of the
iTunes charts.
Otara charts.
Absolutely.
We had a lot of fun there. And I've had a lot of time off. I work at Sunpix Post, which is a post-production facility that makes TV programs. We specialise a lot in Pacific Islander and Maori programming. So some of the shows that come out from our facilities are things like Tangata Pacifica. Te Pamakumara is another show. Aikaroa, which is the Maori drama that's on. I think the next season is starting soon. We're just about to finish season 5, so we've done over 200 episodes of that show. So it's been going on, and that's going to be played on Maori television. And we'll do other things as well. We've got another show called Soul Sessions that we did. I think some of your listeners might know about that one, which is a gospel show. And pretty much anything else that kind of pays the bills. But it's an interesting industry.
Oh, absolutely. And just feeding off what we were talking about and what you just introduced with is that Pacific Island media is getting out there now. It's the slow build. When we talk about Pacific media, it's more of the musical terms. We're talking about OMC back in the days in the early 90s. Right. It was mostly that musical terminology, but then you see more and more shows that are being developed. For instance, a good example would be the recent Duck Rockers that just came through.
Yes, that's right.
Brown Polynesian Māoris who are coming up into those series and making a big stance for themselves. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to you making that sort of production work, what sort of feel when you see stars like that or shows? What makes it that X factor for that show to go out there to be shown out to people? Yeah,
I guess our role is or my role, because I do primarily color grading and things like that. So I basically put the polish on the show, which make it look pretty and expensive, and make sure the actors look really neat. And I guess what is really exciting is that you've got Maori and Polynesia looks just as slick as all the other like TV1 programs or TV2 or even Netflix. The gear that is around now, like cameras, even this show here, it's now, you can have a podcast. There's no excuse. You don't need $1 million to start a podcast studio, and you don't need $1 million to do a web series. All you need is a story to tell. And one of the amazing thing about Maori and Pacifica people, they have so many stories to tell, and there is no end in it, which is fantastic. And it's up there, and it looks good, and it sounds good, whether it's music. And we are there to support the storytellers, no matter where they come from, to telling good stories and make sure it looks and sounds as best it possibly can. And that's where I get my fulfillment from. So, you know, when a producer comes and they have a story or a series, and then let's make it look as cool as, you know.
So what sort of process do you go through with, you know, I know that you're when I was looking through to or doing research and whatnot, you know, color grading and editing, what does that process look like for you when you, so let's say I'm a director and I go, hey, look, I've done X amount of shooting with your company, I have this footage for you to have a look through. What do you do from then onwards after you get your hands on that sort of footage?
So we are a post-production facility, so we handle all the stuff after things have been gone through a production process of on location filming the actors. So we end up with everything that they've shot, all the footage. So we have really not much to do with the production side. So we get... either the production company does edit it within their office because that's called offline editing. That's when you're just telling the story. You don't care about how it looks or sounds. You just make sure you put the right shots in the right order to tell a compelling story. And the sugar coating happens afterwards. That's where we kind of come in. But ultimately for the grunt work, that's what the production company does. And they usually have an editor because editing takes a long time. A half an hour show, 4 weeks, to make sure that it's polished enough to be ready, TV ready. And then it comes to us. And then we like I said, we give it the polish. We do a color grade on it. We do make sure all the graphics are there, visual effects if there's any that need to be, and make it also ready for either online web content or television. They all require their own technical specifications, so it's not like you can just throw things together, edit things together and give it to a TV station. TV stations need to have, it has to be only this loud, and you can't have too brighter colours here, and you can't have glitches here, or, it can't be too long or too short. Everything has to happen within a very narrow framework, basically.
It has to be within the confines of what the client needs. Is that right?
No, what the broadcaster needs, and it's boring as it's like rather than writing the story, you're going through the manuscript and you make sure the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and full stops are in the right place. But it's a necessary part of the process. And at the end of the day, when you see something on TV, it's gone through all of that, which then gives it that professional look. Which is why why does TV look sometimes more professional than people putting stuff on YouTube? That is it. There's just more processes to go from the beginning of it to the end of it within a TV program than there's, say, for a web something that someone would
episodes and whatnot.
Exactly. And there's an army of people that help you make a show. It's not a one-man band. The director is one very small part of the process. So is the editor, so the actors, so is the producer, but they all come together to tell the same story, and that's what's magical about the production process and the content process.
And with that said, the process itself, I feel like it's advanced over the years, right? So when you look at programs from like the early 2000s to now, that process has gone through so much advancement. Could you, because again going through my research, could you then go through your first job in 1999? Explain the big vast differences when you've gone through those changes to now, because because if you, to a normal person, TV is just TV.
Yes.
When you watch it on TV, it's just like, oh, this is a program. Oh, I like this program. It's from a viewer standpoint.
Yes.
But that technical point, a lot of people don't really see the behind the scenes work. And to put a picture behind it so people can see it, it would be awesome to put that out.
Really? You won't be bored?
No. No.
Well, I'll give you a very brief outline, because when I started, everything was still video cassette based. And now it's almost non-existent in our current digital world. And we used to have these giant 2-inch reels, and you had these big machines that you loaded it on, and this was pre-digital, and it's like trying to make sound with vinyl these days. It's almost like an organic process. You're dealing with magnets, and it was a lot more expensive. Like, if you think about something that you have, if you download an editing program now, everything that editing program can do, 20 years ago, to get something similar and not as good, would have cost you over $1 million. So that's how much technology has shrunk everything. So you can download a free program, do your editing, put some text on. That used to all have to be done manually by a different big piece of equipment, almost the size of a fridge and just as heavy. That's why you used to have rooms that were full of huge machinery, loud machinery, and these days it's easier. The process hasn't changed. It's just made it a lot more user-friendly. But what happens now, though, people don't understand the process very well and they rush through it. So in order to get the best possible outcome of any show is to really take your time in all the process. That means filming it right, lighting it, write a good story. You can't just write any old crap and throw it together, put any old music in, and then upload it and expect everyone to love it. The more time and energy you put into something, the more structured and beautiful it becomes, and the more people will react to it.
No, absolutely. It's. I'm going to use a wrestling terminology, which is if the crowd can't feel it, then they won't be interested in it. So, what I mean is that if a person had to strike someone, that sound has to come out as crisp as it needs to be. So when it comes to, from my understanding, is from that writing standpoint, if the storyline is good, if the production is good, then the people will feel that love, that mana that comes from it.
Totally. And that's what separates, a real storyteller. A lot of people get stuck in they have to write a number one record, or they have to do music in a certain way, or make films in a certain way in order to be popular. And what that does, it changes your motivation. And it's not about you telling a good story anymore, because the story comes from the inside, right? You're trying to tell a story from the outside in. You say, people only like this actor, so he has to be in it, and I'll work backwards from there to tell a story. And that's shallow. Good art or good artists comes from sincerity, and it comes from within, and it comes out. And that's why I think slow down. If you're making anything, is your heart in it? Is this you, or is this something that you think others will like? And if you think, I only made this because others will like this kind, and I don't really like it, but I'm good at it, it always fails. You'll be very disappointed because you don't get that recognition. But if you make something for yourself and you listen back to it, or you watch it back and go, I'm really proud of this. There's some elements there that are imperfect, but man, that's cool. And when someone else sees it, it's like a genuineness that comes through. And even with TV productions and even with corporate, they don't want the glitzy glamour. Hi, I'm this guy and I want to sell you this. People don't care about that anymore. They want to see something sincere, and they want a story behind that. And so I've had a really bad time in life, but now I've come out of it, and this part has helped me. You bring it back to you. This is my story, and people can relate to that a lot better. So rather than telling them what they should do, tell your story, and if they get excited about it or motivated by it, then you're on a different level of story sharing.
No, absolutely. And that's what podcasting brings. And me and my good friend Will behind the desk.
Hi, Will.
Hi, Will. So we from day-to-day basis will have people like yourself who come on board to tell their stories. And I truly believe, in thanks to Will, who's, we share that same vision, who we want to share these stories out there. Hence the reason why we'll have people like yourself, because then one day someone who watched this video or watches or listen to this podcast, and they could be inspired to be a color grader or an editor to make that Pacifica content even more viral than it needs to be.
Yep.
And just it's a good light to have. And
there's a huge uniqueness too, and it is a very difficult industry to make a mark in, but it's not difficult to be unique because there's only one of you out there, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you have something to tell in your way, you're the only one that can tell it in that way, and that's something very special, and celebrate it. But it's hard.
No, absolutely. I started off trying to do radio because I have a face for radio,
Beautiful face, by the way. I wish the viewers could see this face for radio.
So I did radio because I was brought up differently. I feel like I was brought up differently. So I was brought
different is cool, you know that, hey?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was brought up to radio, so I would listen to see, I was a weird kid, so I listened to Talkback and whatnot. So everyone was listening to my FM. I would be listening to Talkback, and I would and that's how I built my own character from there onwards. And then it took me over years to realize that everyone's tastes are different. But when it comes to it, a lot of people want that goal of trying to reach there. So I'm still trying to reach my goal into radio and whatnot.
Yeah.
What did it take for you to get to your goal and where you are here, which is in getting into that media? Like you mentioned it before, where it's so hard. How do you break that ceiling for someone, for especially a Pacific Islander who wants to get into that media, who doesn't want to go into singing, but they want to get into that film side of things?
Yeah. Nowadays it's a little bit simpler because you can just go online and look for different companies, different people. We live in New Zealand. Look, it's 1 degree of separation. If you want to know how to meet Mike Hoskins, chances are one of your friends or neighbours would know the cousin of him to get in contact. Or, the contact, even the Prime Minister, we are such a small country and you can capitalise on that. So once you know what you want to do, like I want to be in this industry, say it's television, for instance, you know what the television stations are, you know where they are. You ring them up, or you go online, or you contact someone, or even just if you don't feel brave enough to do that, talk to the institutions that teach that, because they have a kind of a connection in as well. Talk to you, you've got a connection through myself and Will in that kind of area as well.
Absolutely.
All people have to do is be keen and put themselves out there. But it's never going to happen for them. They can't sit there and wait and say, I want this, without doing something for it. You have to put yourself in a space that's uncomfortable. You have, you're starting out with this podcast. You have to reach out to strangers and you want something from them. And it's always so awkward, hey, when you email someone knowing that you want something from them, what's in it for them? Why would they want to talk to me? Everyone has those issues, and even culturally, especially if you're culturally a little bit more laid back and you don't want to make a fuss, or, you don't want to seem desperate. However, there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, especially for yourself. You're not asking anything unreasonable. And more often than not, people will embrace you. Once they know your true colours of, oh, this guy really, or this girl really wants to do this, of course I'm going to help them, No, I can't pay them $1,000 a day to do it, but I could maybe expose them to experiences, which is worth its weight in gold, more than any money.
Absolutely.
And every experience leads off and branches off into another experience. So donate your time here, you get to know this person, who then tells you about this person, you meet that person, who then tells you about it. It's all who you know. And that's it. If you want a job anywhere or you want anything in life, it's who you know. And you basically try and find as many different people and be exposed to as many different things as possible. That's the gold in life, all these different experiences. Like I come from North Shore and my office is in Newmarket. What the hell am I doing here in South Auckland? And I thought, I want to see what Accelerating Auckland does. They do a good job, and but it's not my world at all. I have no experience, and I felt so, oh, what do they want with me? But anyway, Will got me along, and we did Geek Camp together, and I got exposed to the workings, how the area works here, and playing with the kids, and just being yourself. And I didn't have to be Daniel Editor or Daniel Colorist, or all my other credentials didn't mean shit really. And I just had to turn up. That's it, and then slot in. And people embrace you. And now when I come here, I get high fives from you, get the finger from Will. Oh, that finger. Yes.
That's right.
But, all of a sudden, people know you and you are included. At first it's always awkward. People get to know each other. You know that. You probably meet a lot of different people. And even parents that come here feel awkward. Kids feel awkward. But give them a couple of days and a bit of kai and, a bit of a routine, and all of a sudden the walls come down, and all of a sudden you've got access to whole new experiences and a whole new community. And we're all human on the inside. There's nothing different between who I am, who you are, kids down there, adults up there, prime ministers, sports people. They're all scared little children on the inside. Just think about that. Everyone you meet is a scared little child on the inside. And that puts you on an even keel with everyone. So no one's better than you, and no one is worse than you. And if you go through life trying to think that, then, the world is a lot more open place.
It's funny you say that, because I'm still trying to fight those inner demons with that. And it's when I came back in the first week, it was, who can I ask as a guest, or who can I go through? And it's starting off fresh. I feel like I'm walking on my wobbly legs, And I've always had people like Will to trust on, and goes, oh yeah, I'll set up a guest. But this time around, I'm on the other end of the other end of the table. Will going, okay, here's what you need. I'm here to support you, but let's try and get as much people as we can. And it's always that daunting task of that first talk. It's the icebreaker. They're always,
Yes.
Oh, hi, my name is such and such. I represent such and such. I represent Accelerating Aotearoa. Can we do a podcast?
Yes.
And in this day and age, and a lot of things, especially a lot of our mental health stuff, especially, that introduction is always that hard part. It's always that stone wall thing that gets to it.
And it's scary. And it's unsafe, because you never know how the other person's going to react. Especially if you're insecure and they say, no, piss off, I don't know you. What do you want from me, There's going to be people like that. And you've got to have a thick skin that, okay, he's probably not the right person to talk to. But more often than not, people are going to, oh, that's interesting. Oh, thank you for reaching out. I'm really glad, Most of the time they'll get that. Or if people don't want it, they say, I'm really sorry, but, I can't. Or they make some excuses. No one's going to be mean to you, Really, it happens very rarely. However, you're in that unsafe space, that wobbly legs, because you are waiting for a reply. Will they talk to me? Am I worthy of being talked to?
Yeah.
And it does make it easier. And this is what I mean. One thing branches out into others. So the fact that I made the first step to come here and take part in the Geek Camp with you, I got to know you, which then allowed you to see my perspective and reach out to me. It's a little less scary, and I now know you because, hey, Vincent, great, yeah, we had a good time together. Of course, I'll do anything he wants, But if you were a total stranger to me, I'll go, hi, Vince, thanks for reaching out. What is this about, And I would be hesitant. What does he want? What does he want to talk about? I would be a little bit scared because I don't know you, It's like, is he going to make me look like a fool or, But I know you're sincere. You're a good guy. Your motivations are good. I know this place has got a good reputation. I feel safe here. And as soon as people feel safe, you got them.
Absolutely. And you see the key word is safety. And then, above all else, as humans, we want to feel safe. And when it comes to that, it's knowing that person and coming towards that journey with, trying to create something that's amazing. And I want to say thank you so much for letting me go on that journey with you. You know,
no worries. It's amazing because we're all on a journey, and sometimes people walk along with you, and then they go off, and then you separate, and then you come back, and then you separate and come back, or some you separate and you never come back. But there's other people that you walk alongside, and you know, I'd rather talk to you than be stuck in my lunchroom and, you know, just eat a sandwich. So, you know, or do the same thing that I always do, you know, being stuck in an edit suite. So coming here is a novelty and it's fun. It's invigorating. It's a different exposure. Talk about different topics because I had no idea. I didn't send anything I want to talk about. I mean, I'm keen just to hear what you think about my life because I look at my life and go, why does he want to talk to me? It's going to be boring. And but then you get a perspective because from your perspective, I live in a world that you're unfamiliar with, and it's interesting. And everyone, especially through podcasts, every individual has their own story, and it's interesting. If you ask the right questions, you can learn from anyone. And I think that's what podcasting has really done. No matter who your guest is, they will say something that goes, oh, they've got a good point there. And, oh, I never knew that. I didn't know that they did that. So, and you learn. And when you learn, you're grateful for it, I think.
Absolutely. And you think about, when I think about it from that lens, you know, our viewers who are from South Auckland might not have that lens to see different parts of New Zealand, especially outside of Otara or outside of Mangere or Manurewa. You know, they will never get that chance because they always have that same lens that they look out. So it's always beyond their house boundary. So it's amazing to get guests like yourself to go, hey, look, let's put that lens in front of you. Look, it goes beyond the boundaries of my four walls. I can see everything.
Yes.
You know.
And I think that's amazing what you came up with. You know, that's profound. The lens, it's easy to visualize. And you're right, they have a certain lens that they look out from, and that's how they view the world. Yeah. But it is only their view of the world. It's not how the world really is. And it's not just for them. It goes to anyone else out there. You know, everyone has their own narrow lens. Very few people are wise enough to get a broad spectrum. Like even our news is very eccentric towards one way of looking at things. Like look at the things that are happening in Russia and, you know, in the US and, I mean, even Turkey, all these big events. Yeah. We have to remind ourselves we are looking at those events from our New Zealand lens. There's always another lens that people look at the situation on. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle. It's never to one side.
Absolutely.
And even relationships, if someone's mean to you, it's not because you're an idiot or you've done something wrong. Their life is so messed up that they need to be rude to you in order to cope with what's going on in their life. So if we can take that personal lens out of a lot of our interactions, it would be a lot less scary for people to embrace each other, you know? Because in the end, we're going to need each other to heal. And like you said, there's lots of anxiety out there. Will and I talk about all of this. You know, we want to have a better, calmer human race out there. We ask the questions. We don't have the answers, but within one of our conversations, there might be something that you say, like the lens. Someone might visualize, saying, oh my God, he's right. And, you know, this listener is 14 years old. He's going to carry that with him until he's 50. And the whole generation that he is in contact with is going to be painted with that. You know, so we never know what kind of difference we make to people. But we can control what we say out in the world. And if you're sincere and you say something like that, it comes from the heart, it's going to be a betterment of humanity, I reckon. It's all getting very deep here. Well, what's this? How have you trained this guy to be it's getting Will's doing a little dance in the corner there.
Honestly, I always love to think of it this way. It's 50-50. When I do these podcasts, it's 50-50. It's me talking the questions, but they're normally not questions. They're normally like, let's start off with a statement, and that statement goes within the question, and then I let the guest. That's the other 50. to speak, from it. And it's beautiful to watch them go through that whole process of how they come up with that answer. And when people go, oh man, I feel like rambling, you're not rambling. It's your answer. Because different people have different ways of figuring out a puzzle. And that's how I think of it. You're taking a solution within that puzzle. You're taking the puzzle apart. Going, okay, I can put it this way, put it this way, put it this way. It may be different to what the other people who are watching it, but it's the same picture to you as you've seen the question as it is. You know?
And you're right. It's deciphering the puzzle. You know, we're in this world and we see a puzzle in front of us, and we connect certain dots, and those dots create our reality. Now, this is why, personally, I like meditation, because meditation is about moving the dots a little bit further away so you can kind of get a re-perspective thing. That's the only thing that I kind of try and do to calm the mind and just center yourself. It doesn't have to be a big religious experience. It's just saying to yourself, okay, reset, slow down, you know. It doesn't have to be a big thing. But if you do that on a daily basis, you start to be able to be more flexible.
Yeah.
And you're flexible in your mind, especially if you have a mind such as yourself. You're a bit alternative. You go rambling things in your mind. It gets very noisy. It doesn't stop. And it's never going to stop until you ask it to stop. So I think a big thing for us to be able to slow the mind down and ask it to stop. But most people don't know that you can even do that, because the mind is running your life. But it doesn't have to. You can just say, oh, let's just slow it down a little bit, you know. That's what...
You've got to give an example. Sorry, everyone. How?
Okay, Will's just butting in there. Like, who's interviewing?
No, that's fine.
Okay. You really want to go there?
No,
How?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Oh, well. And personally, for me, I'm trying to figure out a way to get a calmer perspective on things, because it helps me in my work, it helps me in my relationships. I get to be more compassionate about what other people are going through and be more open. So there is no magic cure for that. It's just an awareness. So what I've done, because I'm like you, I've got a mind that runs 1,000,000 miles an hour. I've got lots of responsibilities. How do you stop this friggin' thing, you know? How do you put the brakes on? And I knew that the only way to do that is to take a step back, and to take a step back, you have to slow things down. How do you slow your mind down? It's going 1,000,000 miles an hour, like rambling here. You know, you get an idea, it goes blah, 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 blah. Now, stepping back from that, when you close your eyes and just stop and you shut down your senses, so your eyes, as much as possible, touch and things like that. So you're sitting down on the floor or you sit in a chair and you're just quiet, and to begin with, all I did was close my eyes for 5 minutes. That's it. That's all I've asked my body to do. And from that, closing your eyes, listen to your breath. You can even just put a timer on. And your mind's going to go mental. It's going to go just fire off in all directions. You're going to be thinking about, oh, this is stupid. Oh, I've got this to do. I want this to do and this to do. Now, this will happen probably for the next few times you do this. But persevere, and all of a sudden, your mind starts to break into two. You're going to have this monkey mind, which is what they call it, which is going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Then you've also got a perspective that is observing the monkey mind. Now, that observing part of your brain, which is tiny in comparison to this loud one, is there. You will feel it and sense it. And the more you do this exercise, the more the quiet part gets to be an observer. So rather than constantly being at the whim of your thoughts and the mind. So that's the way I explain it without getting too esoteric. Is that good enough, Will, or should I embellish that?
No, that's perfect.
How does that make you feel?
Because I did it, and I did it just not too long ago, and it was only for a short while. I get what you mean, because I feel like my brain is like a department of me's, and there's a lot of crosstalk.
Yes,
and I can hear you talk, but that crosstalk is getting louder. It's like, okay, should I open my eyes? because I'm interviewing this guy. I shouldn't be doing this right now. I should be focusing on the camera. And I'm getting lost in that crosstalk. And I know what you mean now by that crosstalk just gets louder and louder. But the more that I feel like if I do this, take 5 minutes just to detox or cleanse that.
It's a mental detox.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Rather than drinking fizzy drink like Coca-Cola with lots of sugar, it's almost like you're having a glass of water. So if you put a glass of water into your body, it's a neutral and it dissipates it where it needs it and nourishes certain parts. And this is exactly what it is. It's like a pill you take every day, and the more you take it, you're not going to be superhuman. You're not going to be, astral traveling or anything like this. But you're going to find that when circumstances arise, you're more powerful in the present, and you're more powerful as a human being. It's beautiful to see. So I'm glad it touched you in some way. Mentally touched you. Nothing inappropriate here, just a mental touch.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's going back to what we were talking about, is getting those tools. We went through from a professional standpoint to an educational standpoint to a mental health well-being standpoint. And like you mentioned it before, podcast is versatile like that. It goes through 2 different topics, and I'm hoping that whoever watches this podcast is able to take. It may be a mismatch of topics, but at the end of the day, it has one undertone underneath. It's to help.
It helped, definitely.
Yeah.
Help understand the industry and help understand perspective, because each individual thing is everyone has something, but very rare would they share it, or they don't know how to contextualize it. They say, "Oh, my mind goes a million miles an hour."
Yeah.
Well, how do you know your mind goes a million miles an hour if you can't see it yourself? So you already know the symptom. So if you can now go back and go, "Oh, I'm going to remove that million miles an hour," and what part of me isn't a million miles an hour? And that's where you kind of start the process.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, we're all in the same boat, and our Western civilization and culture is just, it's got a lot of work to do.
No, absolutely.
It starts with the young generation. So revolt and do nothing.
We have to hold on that revolution for now.
Oh, okay.
As the boat is now about to leave the exit, it is about to undock. We're going to put a curtain onto this episode of this podcast. But
really?
I know we had such a lovely time. But with all things said, I would like to leave off with our listeners and our viewers one piece of advice that you would like to give out to them to, give them hope out there.
Give them hope. I think I've said heaps of things. Hopefully there's one thing that I've mentioned that makes someone think or helps someone. I mean, you've had a few nuggets yourself there. So between the both of us, I think we've solved everyone's life issues. So I think our work here is done, Vincent.
Fair enough. Would you have a quote that you like to, that you always, this is always in the back of your head?
Interesting. I do actually.
Okay.
I used to think about this a lot. It's actually a John Lennon quote. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans.
That's beautiful.
And so it really puts things into perspective that you're almost like you're constantly distracted doing your own thing, and while you're doing that, there goes your life. It's but it doesn't have to kind of be like that just because that's the way it is. But if you're more active in choosing different paths, it makes your life all the more richer.
Absolutely. I feel like I'm a 10 times billionaire just to listen to your wow.
Oh my goodness. Well, I get half that money up.
Sure. Here comes the royalties.
Yes, thank you.
No worries. Well, once again, thank you so much, Daniel.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Awesome. And thank you so much for watching South Side Kōrero. I hope you enjoyed this episode.